What are marriage skills that are particular to parents of children with disabilities? That's the topic that we're going to address today on Flourish-Meant. I'm your host, Tina Yeager, and today I'm excited to bring to you Kristin Faith Evans. She is an author, a speaker, a licensed master social worker, and she's a special needs mom as well, and she empowers other families and parents to develop the unique supplementary relationship and coping skills to build a thriving marriage in one of the most difficult situations to do so. Welcome, Kristin. I am so delighted to share this very important message on Flourish-Meant from you to our audience today.
Hi, Tina. Thank you so much for having me on.
Let's dive into the stress of being a disability parent. Can you talk about how couples can help each other through the stress rather than taking that position of enmity and responding to stress and fear and helplessness and throwing it at each other?
Yes, so it can be overwhelming. And what we like to tell parents and couples is you don't have to do this huge get out of the house for 2 days, even a day. It's the little things throughout the day. It's our favorite thing, and this sounds so cheesy, and we tell couples this a lot, is our deep breathing hug. And it seems like it wouldn't help that much, but when we hug and we take deep breaths together, it actually lowers our blood pressure, our heart rate, our stress response system. It helps us connect, our breathing gets in sync, and we have that connection for a minute. And it really not only helps us lower our stress, but when you lower your stress as a couple, you can connect more emotionally and intimately. The stress response system keeps us unable to connect. That's one of the big pieces. And so Todd and I have learned there's different levels of reducing that stress, and it's different for each person and each couple. We have to do that on an individual level. Todd runs. I like to exercise. I do mindfulness, deep breathing, meditating on scripture. I go to therapy. I still go to therapy. And that's one of my big stress relievers. Not only am I using coping skills, but I'm talking through my grief. And Todd just can't be that for me still on that level. So an individual level, it can feel impossible for couples. And we know it was for us for years to get out of the house together. But research shows you have to, especially moms. We have to get out of this stressful situation in the house and away from our child, whatever it takes, even if it's just an hour, even if it's just one night away at a hotel 5 miles from the house. That actually makes a big difference. It seems like it wouldn't, but it does. So you have to do it on the level as a couple and individually.
When people are stressed and they are experiencing trauma and experiencing that ongoing grief that you mentioned in the first part of our conversation, they tend to react by saying some of the worst things to each other that they could possibly say. How can couples recover from the hurt that they've inflicted on each other when they've been stressed in order to be able to move forward?
I think the first step towards healing was being willing to say, I was wrong. And I don't know. I don't understand what you're going through. I'm sorry I said it that way, but I just really don't understand. And then it was that step of showing each other that we wanted to understand. We wanted to learn how to support the other person. Like, I mentioned before, Todd said, I don't know how to validate your emotions. I don't even know how to have a validation conversation. Now, we're on extremes. He's an engineer, and I'm a people person, a mental health counselor. So we were on the ends of the spectrum of solutions focused and emotions conversation. And so we've both had to learn and shown each other, I want to learn. I want to respond to you when you come to me upset in the way that you feel cared for. So it's acknowledging, I don't know how to love you. And that's when we began to rebuild trust.
It sounds like each individual in the couple has to put the relationship as a priority in their lives above their own wants and needs and just needing to feel right and vindicated and all of those things.
Hmm. And above, it sounds bad. We literally were just trying to keep our daughter alive on 4 machines. The marriage became the last priority. And it seems like, oh, we need to do everything for our child's health and development. It's actually the opposite. And I try to tell parents to motivate them to care for themselves in their marriage. The healthier you are physically, mentally, and in your marriage, the healthier your child is going to be. And so we have to put the marriage first in order for our family to be healthy and functioning. But also, Todd and I were in such pain and hurt. Like I said, we didn't even want to be in the same room. We had to be willing to recommit to one another and to our marriage, which meant sacrificing, like you said, our wants, needs. We had to be willing to say, I may never get what I need, but I'm going to love my spouse. And we're not going to leave each other.
This sounds like a very isolating experience for parents and individuals who are going through this, even if you're united as a couple. When you look out at the church, at the community, at even your family members, they are going to struggle with, how do I understand what you're going through? How do I respond appropriately? There may be some avoidance because they don't know what to say, or they may say the wrong things. How can churches and family members and communities better respond to and support parents of disabled children?
An important topic. I think on both sides, we don't know what to do. There were several churches we visited, and we just couldn't go there for various reasons. People, wanted to help us, but it wasn't working. People tried to help us when Bethany Grace was little, but it was hard because they didn't understand how medically fragile. So what we would say to friends, family, and churches is just keep reaching out, especially if you see they're not coming to church. Because for a year I couldn't go to church. I couldn't leave Beth at home. So there's those families too who aren't even able to make it to the building. And when they do, it is very hard for our families to walk in that door and even make it to church. So I would say just don't be afraid of saying the wrong thing. And a way to avoid saying the wrong thing is just ask questions. We just want to be seen and heard. So instead of saying, "Oh, we're so glad you made it here," or something, say, "Hey, we're glad you're here. Is there any way I can support you? Just let me know if you need anything. Can I get you a bottle of water?" Just any kind of little question. And then it's the little things. It's the, "Hey, can I bring you a meal?" And we may say no 3 times. But just keep asking. "Hey, I'm going to the grocery store. I'd like to pick you up some groceries. I really mean it." Just little things that can take the stress off our family. It seems little, but it makes a huge difference. And what we tell parents and couples, it is really hard to find that support. Most of the time, we can't both get to a support group. There are really amazing virtual support groups for moms, dads, couples. We have all that on our website because we want people to find those resources. Attend a virtual live support group. Don't give up. Keep reaching out. It's that support in that community that will help lower the stress on your family and marriage and help make you strong.
Financially, with regard to time management, with regard to emotional energy and physical energy, it would be very difficult to prioritize counseling, support groups, self care. Would you speak to those who are considering that but saying, there's just no way I can fit that in? Why is that an important thing to make as a priority?
And that's where I was, and that's where Todd was when I desperately needed the help. When Bethany Grace was little, we didn't have the money. I couldn't get out of the house. He could not work. However, that almost ended tragically for my mental health and our marriage. You just have to make that decision to find a way. And Financially, that can be a huge roadblock, especially since a lot of people don't even have insurance, but it's critical for your health. It will begin to impact your physical health. We are at twice the risk as parent caregivers for long-term physical illnesses and mental health disorders. And we don't like to ask for help, but churches have benevolence funds. They have money for these situations, and we tell churches, please support the mental health and marriages of families. If they come to you needing help, give them the money they need to at least get started on therapy. Now, I do believe we should have some financial investment in our therapy, whether that's just even $5 or $10. But there are supports out there. There's therapists who do sliding fee scales. I've done that, and because we have extenuating circumstances. There's virtual, because it can be really hard. Now, I will say, find a trained, licensed virtual counselor. It's critical, and we just have to make that decision. We're going to do this for ourselves and for our family.
When you place the risks ahead of us so that we can see them, it becomes clear that you can't afford not to. It's more of a risk and more of an expense not to get support than it is to go and seek that. That is a very good point. What are some final tips that you want to offer to families and those who support families where there's a child with a disability?
Bethany Grace has taught us a totally different perspective on life. She has taught us about gratitude and just embracing each new day, even when it's hard to find something to be thankful for. When your child's very sick or really struggling, you can find a deeper joy and meaning in life through this, relying on God and becoming healthy and growing closer to your spouse. And, it can feel overwhelming. Like, where I don't even know where to begin. I'm so overwhelmed. I have so much to do today. Just take 1 minute to breathe, to deep breathe in a scripture, meditate on one verse, and just breathe and give God all of it, all your anxieties, worries, everything. And just take one little step at a time. That's our biggest encouragement.
Kristin, can you describe some of the resources and support that you offer through your ministry and through your new book, and how people can access those?
Yes. So on our website, disabilityparenting.com, you can download free a workbook that I created professionally to help you decide, would counseling help me? It's got a checklist. It's got questions to help you think through that, resources for how to find a therapist in your area. That's just one example. We have tip sheets for how to, even just 10 things you can say to your spouse to help them feel validated and cared for. You can put on your fridge. I've got simple exercises to help you connect with God throughout your caregiving day, because we don't have a chunk of time usually. And you can read the first chapter of our book free. So disabilityparenting.com, you can download all those resources. You can find our book pretty much anywhere. Books are sold, Amazon, Baker Books, Barnes and Noble. We tried to make it very practical because we know you don't have time. We tell couples, don't try to read through the book. This is not a book you pick up and just read through. It's more like a skills manual. You say, okay, we're really struggling with communication. Flip to that chapter. There's different skills you can do. Pick one.
And the title of that book is How to Build a Thriving Marriage as You Care for Children with Disabilities. Whether you are a parent of a child with disabilities or someone you love or is in your community is facing this challenge in their marriage, I hope that you were informed and you will access these vital resources that are unique and groundbreaking to rescue your marriage, your family, and even ultimately also bless your child. And of course, I also hope that you will come back for the next episode of Flourish-Meant.